We always try to do two things at the end of each module, which is A, leave the best to the last.
Ming is nervous now. Please God.
The B, bring in practitioner voices, which we think is really important. Now, I met the Two Teresas 2 or 3 years ago now?
3
years ago when Michelle and I were going around Wales and England and Scotland looking at those sort of organisations I was talking about earlier in the week. And we were made incredibly welcome and had amazing banana cake and tried to do an interview in a sports hall full of bloody kids coming and going and all sorts of chaos. But one of the things I remember in particular, partly from the amazing organisation, is it was a Friday evening. We had somewhere to stay, but there was no shops in between. And they came out with a goodie bag of fruit and vegetable and bread and milk for us to take, which was amazing. So little touches. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce the Two Teresas from Glenboig Development Trust. Paul, I, Michelle and Doug are working on the paper very slowly, as I said.
Not our fault, may I add. Not our fault, may I add.
Not your fault. On the organisation. The Two Teresas came last year, and there's a full, somewhere on the Learn from last time, there's a full presentation as well, which was recorded, so we'll put it onto your material. But what we're going to do is the Two Teresas are going to talk about their work for around about half an hour, and then I am going to ask them some pithy, pertinent, probing questions, and then I'll open up to the audience. Okay, so Teresa and Teresa.
First of all, can we thank Neil and his team for inviting us back here. We never thought in a million years we'd become.
She can't hear you.
Can you hear us?
We'll have to be shorter than half an hour.
Sorry, I was just saying, we've been to repeat
Yeah.
We said we'll improvise.
And it's great to see you all. First, Glenboig Development Trust, that's who we are. First name there, Teresa Keating, that's me. Born and brought up in Glenboig. Lived all my life in it, brought up family of 4. We're all now spread all over the place. And have been involved with Teresa, the other Teresa, we'll tell you who she is in a minute, for a long time now, 20 years.
30 years maybe. Volunteering before the neighbourhood house.
In various capacities, and then I actually worked in the village. I'm a senior teacher to trade, and I taught a lot of the children in the village who are now mummies and daddies and have children of their own, and we're now working with all elements, all levels of population in our community.
Hello everyone, and thanks to Neil, Michelle and the team for inviting us here again. I'm Teresa Aitken and I'm the Development Manager of Glenboig Development Trust, and I came into the organisation 20 years ago as a volunteer, and then as we progressed and identified gaps within the community to deliver projects, I took on the job of Development Manager, and I've been there ever since. I was born and bred in Glenboig, and I've brought up my family and now my grandchildren, and I can see right at grassroots level what's needed in the community and through consultation with the community. Teresa and I have actually been working together for about 30 years. Before that, I would have known her as a teacher, teaching my children in the local primary school in different volunteer capacities within different groups within the community. And 20 years ago, we came together and we've had a great relationship looking at and building up the projects within the community. You'll have to excuse us, we'll get this together in a minute. Right, Teresa.
Give you a wee idea of where we are. Some of you may have been to Scotland. Anybody been to Scotland? Wonderful. Isn't it the loveliest place in the world? Sorry, but I love it, guys. That's a wee map of central Scotland you're seeing there. And the red teardrop is us. We're an ex-mining and brickworking rural village. You'll see Glasgow, that's about a 10, 12-mile journey into the city. We're situated in the heart of North Lanarkshire, in the central lowlands of Scotland. A lovely place to be, not as dramatic as some of you may have been to the Highlands, to Fort William, Inverness, etc. All marvellous, but we're a little bit less dramatic. Very populated and lots of ex-industrial areas. The picture to the right is the way part of the village used to look, because we had 6 brickworks at one point, and there's a whole tale to be told there, because Glenboig brick were made of fire clay, and fire clay, as you know, or I'll tell you, is a special kind of clay that needed to be used in furnaces and chimneys and all the rest of it. So our brick were actually exported literally all over the world. When we were wee girls, members of our family worked in the brickworks. There was 6 altogether, and then there was a local mining area as well. So busy, busy, busy part of the area, thriving. And then the brickworks closed down gradually. Bedley Colliery closed down, and virtually the village started to close down, because once people are out of jobs, as you know, the economy and everything is hit, so it causes tremendous complicated problems. Our nearest town is Coatbridge, and even when all this was happening, everything was sort of winding down. In those days, people weren't as mobile as they are now. They depended on public transport, etc., etc. And public transport was a wee bit scant, so the village was really, really hard hit. So I'm putting a wee bit into context to let you see where we kind of started to come into the picture. We were growing up in this time, and then the village all kind of started to die away a bit and lose its spirit, basically.
The village kind of stagnated at that time back in the 80s when the pits closed, the steelworks closed, and the brickworks were long closed by that time. And then over more recent years, the farmers have started to sell their land, and we had a population of about 2,130 in the stats at that time. We've now got a population of about 4,500 that would be great, 4,500 people, and we are one of the community growth areas in North Lanarkshire, of which there are 3, and we're set to have 1,040 houses developed within the community, which will double the population again. And as part of that development in the rural area, there's been a government initiative developed, which is the 7 Lochs project. And you can get the story of the 7 Lochs actually online. But the 7 Lochs project is made up of 7 lochs, ranging from Glenboig through to Gatcosh, another small village, up to Drumpellier and Coatbridge, which is our nearest town. And then it links over the bridge into Bishop's Loch, which takes you into Easterhouse, and that's part of Glasgow, and moves on to Hugginfield, Provenhall, and Cardown Moss are some of the other lochs, basically. And the aim of this is that we'll have a paths network where we can visit all the lochs. You can hire a bike in Glenboig, drop it at Hugginfield Loch, which is something that you can't do just now. It's very difficult to get from area to area, and that's the aim of this 5-year project. And we're the first Eastern visitors gateway on that network, and we'll tell you a wee bit about that as we're going on. We're in the process of a major capital project, and we'll be the first visitors gateway to open up on that network. Just I kept this in my hand.
Big question. Why does a wee village like that special? In the centre, there's the reason. It's the people in it. Because there's so many of us can still remember what Glenboig was like 100 years ago. The community spirit, the village spirit, how people work together, how they looked after each other, how they cared about each other, how people called it, now we call it nosy, but it was concern. Nobody was left out, nobody was abandoned, and it's the people that count. So what we are doing with all the projects, and Neil will back us up, we've got quite a few on the go, is trying to bring that community spirit Well, we brought it back into the village, and as Teresa told you, it's more than doubled in size now, and it's set to grow over another 1,000 houses. So if even just 2 people in each of those dwellings, that's another 2,000 people. So our village soon will be treble the size it was when we started. But the community spirit is definitely back. If you look at the wee picture under the community spirit, that's one of our new initiatives is a walking school bus. Anybody ever heard of a walking school bus? Good. It's a terrific idea, isn't it? What you do is, it's to encourage youngsters to walk to school. Such that mummies and daddies don't need to go up and offload them to save them wee legs. It's far better for them to walk. And one of our workers now, chapters, an ex-fireman called Alistair, a bit of funding came our way. He was desperate to start this again. We had it already a few years ago. Those kids are all grown up now, so he wanted to start again, and we had the means to bring him on board. And he starts every morning at a particular point. People join the queue. Some of the mummies and daddies are joining the queue, and he walks up to the local primary. We're lucky to have a joint campus. So both primary schools in the area are on the one place, and he walks them safely into the school. And then the same thing's done at home. Time goes by, he collects them all. And they snake their way with our paths cut through, you'll see it later on in one of the slides, our village play park. And it's a fairly safe route for Alistair to drop off, going through the village play park and round about it to drop the kids off near enough back home.
One of the aims of this active, I'll come in just here, one of the aims of this active travel project is to cut down emissions within the community, to stop so many cars going up to the school. We've got about 384 kids going into the 2 primary schools, plus we've got about 60 kids going in the morning and the afternoon into the nursery. And we've got a minimum of 134 cars going up through our community every morning and afternoon. So one of the aims is to cut down the car emissions, and that's kind of working through this project and through this walking bus. I mean, some of the kids in our community live round the corner from the school, and the parents are jumping in the cars and taking their kids round the corner to school. One of the other aims is to encourage physical activity. We have bicycles within the community. We teach young kids bike mobility, right through to adult 3-wheeler bikes, electric bikes and bikes for families. And the aim is to get adults back out, people that have no confidence, back out cycling again. And in one of those photos back at the beginning, I'm sure if the picture's still there, no, it's been taken off, I think, the hub one. We had a 91-year-old woman out in our adult 3-wheeler cycles. We've had a partially blind man who cycled all over Scotland in his younger days and was really keen to get back to cycling. So the aim of the active travel coordinator is to get people physically active, build their confidence, and get them back out doing activities they did when they were young. Another thing that Teresa kind of commented on was transport. Now, living in a rural area, transport is really difficult for us. Our community is made up of 5 settlements. So we have the village where we're situated with the centre. We have Manlock, which is the social housing, where all the social housing is. We have Ramone, which is a small village of about 100 houses. It sits up in the hill about a mile out of the community. Greenfoot and Annet Hill, where our mining village was. And Greenfoot and Annet Hill have no transport whatsoever. We have 2 minibuses. One's adapted for people with wheelchairs. And we use those minibuses to get people out, to come to our groups. And that means that we are really inclusive. We can bring anybody of any ability out to our groups and activities. Some of these other pictures, this one at the bottom, we have a senior care project. It's funded through the big lottery for 5 years. And our senior care project taps into all elements of what our older people within the community would require. We have a phone contact service where we phone them in the morning, find out if they need any help. We deliver their lunches and their dinners 6 days a week. We've got a cleaner who's out a kind of small social enterprise, a cleaner who's out cleaning. We have an environmental project where we have gardeners that go out and cut the grass of the older people, where the council cut the grass and charged quite an astronomical amount every year. We charge a small amount. They cut the grass, but they clean up after them. So they might put their flowers in for them. They might just water their plants. They move on and they do kind of different small jobs for them. If they've got new windows going in, we take their curtains and their poles down. We move their furniture. But what it also does for us, it gives us an in into these houses, and it keeps bogus callers away from the door. It keeps their places tidy and keeps bogus callers away from the door. In the winter, that turns into a winter service where we salt their paths, and we then have an idea if somebody that can't get out needs a cup of soup or a bowl of soup, they need a gas card, they need a paper, and whatever they need, we'll provide that for them. We take them in 4 holidays a year. And the aim of that is that people that are living alone or people that are caring for people can come, the carer and the cared for can come on holiday, and we provide staff to support them for that holiday. We have activities for them. We have bowling. We have a craft group. We have a village autumn group. That's people in the autumn years of their life. That's why that group was called that. So that's for 50 upwards. So there's quite a lot of us in that group as well in the community. And they do a lot. They're quite an autonomous group, although we really support them, you know, and we do all their admin for them and all their organisation. They do things like physical activity. They have speakers in. They play bingo. Really, whatever's on their programme that they want, we'll try and provide for them through that group. But in this picture here, you'll see this is one of the trips that we were away on. So the man at the front there has additional support needs, and he's a volunteer with us. He volunteers in the cafe and he's been involved with us for many years now. The lady on the right has additional support needs, lives on her own, and she comes to all the groups. She comes to the art group, the village autumn group. Basically, whatever's going, that lady will come. She comes on the holidays. We deliver her lunches. But we do try to keep people independent, so it's not about taking away their independence. It's about supporting their independence to live in their own house. The man at the back's 91, and this lady with the purple cardigan on here now has dementia and is in a care home. And to keep her connected to our community, we pick her up and bring her down to the activity group every Wednesday to ensure that she's still connected to the activities within the community. This is another trip out, and this lady here with the yellow jacket's actually in remission from cancer, and the other 2 ladies are widows. So we're really inclusive, really there supporting like every age group and every element within our community. The aim is that we take care of the people within our community. And our board will say to you it's from cradle to grave, and really it is from cradle to grave.
Something else we didn't mention about the community spirit. 4 times a year we have a public, what would you call it?
Community events you're speaking about?
Event, big community event. Halloween, we have a Halloween walk. We're lucky to have an area near the village full of big trees and all the rest of it, and it's all lit up. The youth put on scary tableaus and scare the living daylights out of everybody. And this year, in October, when we had it, there was over 600 people came to it. Not just from Glenboig, from outside the village. That's October. Last Saturday there, the rain in Glenboig was torrential. So we were having a Christmas crack-up. Santa Claus was scheduled to visit, and with various other things planned. So a lot of folk might have cancelled, but we didn't. And there was over 300 come through the doors. And there was one lady, she says that a local family, they'd been up at Loch Lomond, again a place some of you might know, and the council up there were putting on a big thing, and at the last minute it was cancelled. She says, so we just all got back into the car because we thought, well, the council might cancel, but Glenboig won't cancel. And she just brought all the kids down to the village, and it was a great day. Easter, we have an Easter egg hunt and various other things for kids to go and find their egg, and then another one if they find that, and a whole lot of stuff. But we're very fortunate, and you'll see in the later slide, to have our own village park, as I told you earlier. And it gives us the opportunity to have a lot of local events without having to shed people out. The other thing that we have every summer is the gala day, and there's several thousand actually really come to that. We put on all our own stuff, activities, stalls, you name it, and we do it, and there's lots of people come. So all these events, people now, they start looking forward to them, and they'll say, bring such and such, and bring such and such, and they bring their families along. So the children are growing up with that sense of belonging, and that is very important.
The community events give us a great opportunity to consult with the community. That's one thing that we're really proud of, is a consultation that we carry out with the community, regular consultation, and that's how we manage to identify the gaps and fill those gaps and provide actual activities and programmes that the community needs. This is some of our younger, our youths at the ice skating. I think that's one of the Christmas, they go on a Christmas trip to the ice skating put on by North Lanarkshire Council. It's about one of the only free trips that they get throughout the year from North Lanarkshire Council, and I know that we've got 50 kids going to that. I think it's actually tonight. This is Friday, isn't it? So it's tonight. And that takes us on to the kind of the official side. We are a development trust. Do you want to speak about that first, Teresa, that wee bit now?
The Development Trust Association was set up a number of years ago to help community groups kind of get into shape, see how your neck's so. Keep things legal, make sure you're on the right track, and they are terrific for any formal. And I was on the board for a couple of years, and they're really good at helping to shape up, if you like. They are a community-owned and led, using self-help for trading purposes, and we do trade because we have our own shop. I'll be hearing a wee bit more about that later. And we also very invaluable. We now own our community centre. It belongs not to the council anymore. It belongs to us, and the Development Trust were terrific in helping us there. It was a long journey. It wasn't an easy one, but the Development Trust kept us right, and I can't praise them enough.
What we do for our trading for social purposes and ownership of the buildings and land, we also own a piece of land within the community. We'll touch on that later. That was left in perpetuity to the older people of the community, and one of the local developers was trying to take ownership of it. One of our local girls was working in the sales office and came and told us that it was our land, basically. So we took ownership back from the Crown on that piece of land, and at present we're developing a community garden in it. We'll touch on that later. Some of our trading is that we took over the local post office. The local post office was getting closed. In March 2014, we took over the local post office as a social enterprise. So it's run by the community, for the community. And what we were doing with the post office was we were wrapping it round when the community centre was open. When we took over the community centre, it was open for 20 hours a week. When we took over the post office and we relocated into the community centre, we opened it for 70 hours a week, basically. And at that time, and in post offices nowadays in Scotland, I don't know if it's the same everywhere else, you have to have a trading element attached to your post office, basically. And we thought, oh, trading, what are we going to do for trading? We had no trading at that time, but we had a tuck shop for the children, and we had a fruit and vegetable initiative. So what we did was we opened our own fruit shop. We go to the fruit market, we get the fruit at cost price, and we provide it to our community. We use it in our mother and toddler, we use it in our jelly bean club. We hand it out to people that are maybe disadvantaged and give them some healthy food. And we've also now got a shop selling all the essentials that local people need. We have about 8 social enterprises in it. We've got people that make cards, people that make jewellery, people that make jam, they make ginger wine at Christmas, loads of different elements, and we get 10% commission off everything that those people sell within that shop, basically. We have a community cafe, which really was set up all those years ago for a hub for people to meet, because within our community there's no hub where people can socialise. There's nowhere that new people could come and find out what was going on in the community. There was nowhere where people could take their children to learn the skills to sit at a table if they took them to a restaurant. And that's all the things that people were telling us. I can't take my children out for a meal because they won't sit at the table. They're jumping all over the place. So we say bring them to the community cafe because that's where they learn. It's a great place for building friendships as well. If you come into our community, you're new to the community, and you come in to find out what's wrong, we would say go into a community cafe and have a coffee. Everybody will speak to each other. It's very informal, and people learn then, about the community.
Between the post office and another system called Fair Share, where you get the excess from supermarkets, you buy into it and it's supplied out to you. As Teresa mentioned, we're actually able to identify families that need that wee bit extra help and supply them with maybe shopping or whatever. But it can be done in a non-intrusive and non-public way, so that people aren't feeling, oh my God, I don't want to, people shouldn't know I'm getting this. We make sure that nobody knows, and it's done confidentially, through the cafe, through the post office, and through the fair share.
So we're in a rural area. We live about 3 miles from the nearest town. So we are a rural development trust. But although we work independently, we have a lot of partnerships and people that we work with, and you're going to ask me about that later on, aren't you? So we work with the public sector, private businesses, and with other community groups. And round about our development trust, you know, we've got a great board that runs our development trust, is at the heart of our development trust. And we have members from every area within the community. We've got young people, we've got people with all different kind of skills that can help us drive that forward. We are an anchor organisation. There's nobody within 3 miles of our community that delivers any of the services that we are delivering. Families would have to travel in the local bus, the 3 miles, which is costly basically. So everything we do is cost effective so that all the families and all the people in our community can actually take part in what we're doing. And we do help other organisations. We have host organisations, and usually it's DTA that refer them on to us, but we have host organisations coming from all sections. Basically, we had a Swedish group last year visiting us to find out how to develop in the communities. We've had people from Wales, England. We get a lot of groups from Scotland. Obviously, we had Michelle shadowing us this year in James, which was really good and interesting. So we welcome people to our community so that we can pass on our skills and help other organisations to set up and move on.
Another point we need to make too is, because we're not a government organisation, we're independent, so we're not council controlled, government controlled. We work within legal parameters, and as far as everybody we deal with, we don't have to keep going cap in hand to the council and saying, is it okay if we do this, is it okay if we do that? We don't need to worry that the government's ever going to come in and say, oh, you need to stop that. Because we're an independent development trust, we are our own bosses. And we are bosses. We do have, how many people employed now?
22.
22 people employed. Local people, and some of them we've brought through the ranks. I'll give you one quick example. Jenna, our youth coordinator, came to us when she was 12 to the groups. She's now a mummy with 2 little boys. She's worked right up through the ranks with her training and guidance, and she's a terrific lassie now. She's full of ideas, full of gusto, and we couldn't wish for better. But she's locally trained, locally lives, brings her 2 laddies along as well. So it's definitely the best way to do things. The Development Trust encourage that.
90% of our staff are local, and most of them have come through as volunteers or through Community Jobs Scotland, which is a government initiative where we employ disengaged young people, up to the age of 25, that are most disengaged from the market, build their confidence, give them the skills to go in and take up employment, go to university or go to college. And we've had great success with that. We work with another employability initiative, and it's one of our colleagues in another centre, and it's called Brighter Futures, and that's for people 25 up. He's seen a gap in the market where we hit the recession. You know, it was all right having loads of things for the young ones, but nobody was tackling this 25 to upwards age. So we bring people on for 6 months. If the council has money, which they've did in the past, they then extend it for another 3 months. Our gardener came through that project. Our assistant gardener that helps them come through that project. Our other young boy that's involved in the garden has additional support needs, and he comes through the Community Jobs Scotland. Young people that are sessional workers within the youth are mentored from a young age, coming through as volunteers. And if they're committed to the organisation, they like the organisation, they're committed to what we do, and we can offer them employment, then that's the way we employ people. We have had other skills come in, on placement. Our senior care manager came in placement, and we then took her on into employment, didn't let her back out the door again, basically. Our administrator, who's our assistant sub-postmistress, comes through Community Jobs Scotland. She now does the finances and is my right-hand person, couldn't do without her, basically. So that's the way we kind of operate within the community. What it gives is a great staff team. It gives us people that are committed, and people don't move on a lot. They tend to stay with the organisation until they're ready to go, but really long term. This is some, we try to do some, we've got a lot of highlights, and you know, to put them all on a slide or a presentation would really, so we've tried to tap into some of the highlights that, you know, some of the things that we're working on just now, basically. So, well, you know about the post office, we've told you about that. We took over that in 2014, and that'll be moving into our new centre with us, and we'll be expanding and building on that. When I get to the centre, I'll tell you about that. That's the young children volunteering in our community garden, basically. And what's happened with the community garden was the piece of land that was left to the older people, they then made it over to the Development Trust. For years, it was just, it was totally overgrown, it was derelict, and we decided a community garden, that's what the people in the community wanted. And we've got a company called Amy who work on the roads, they tar the roads, a big national company basically, and they've come in and did a lot of volunteering. So they've levelled all the ground for us along with the local farmer. He's gave us some in-kind work there, levelling the ground. Amy's come in, they've made us a forest area for the kids to work in. We've got a patio area. They've gave us an area where we can park our buses. We've got 4 cabins based in there now, and 2 of the cabins, our youth are working out it just now because we relocated because of our capital project, and they are now working with some of the woods and doing some recycling in there. So the pallets off our building site have now been made into Christmas trees, snowmen, fairies. So, I mean, you know, that they've made pallets for storing their brushes. They've got pallets made for storing the kids' Wellingtons. You know, the stuff that they're doing down there is really fantastic. They've got to be commended for working out there in the first place, I've got to tell you. So the allotment, we have in Scotland, we are one of the 6 host organisations for the health and social care integration. And we have a joint integration board that sits at the very top of that. And it's about health and social work working together. And we're right in the heart of that, you know, working at strategic level. We chair a consortium of all different groups around the table from the council, Alzheimer's Scotland, community learning and development, social work. Basically, you know, amazing different partners around the table. And we got a small grant to develop some of this site, basically, about £5,000 or £6,000. And I've got to say that if we had to look at the work that's getting done in it just now and what we need to develop it, a scaffolding company gave us all their old boards because they moved to metal boards, so we've made all our raised beds out of that. It would come to a total of £50,000 or £60,000. So really, you know, it's about going down there and getting as much in kind as we can. I'm a great believer in if you don't ask, you don't get. So I ask everywhere for. As part of the gardening and part of what we do out in the community, this is to our gardening team here. We, every year, we register for Beautiful Scotland. But years ago, the council funded that. The first year, the council thought, Beautiful Scotland's a great idea, let's get all the communities involved in it. So they gave us all lovely planters for our communities. We all joined and we all got a bronze award, basically. The next year when it came, council decided, well, we've no money, so we'll not do that this year. We'll just look at the cutbacks and cutback and things. We decided to carry on with it. But what we decided was we would go for It's Your Neighbourhood, because It's Your Neighbourhood is about community, what you're doing in your community, to better your community, to bring community spirit alive. So we've had the highest outstanding award now in It's Your Neighbourhood for the last 5 years. 5 minutes left. Seven Lochs project we've kind of hit on. This is our loch, basically, Garn Queen Loch in Glenboig. The village park, this was another project that when the farmers sold their land and we had 350 new houses, we had what all communities would probably have, a swing and a shoot, and they told us that they were going to come into the community and build a park, and we says, no, you're not. Our kids have been waiting for years to get a play park, and we're going to get a play park that our community deserves and that our community wants. So we consulted with the community. We brought in 238,000 from the lottery, 60,000 from an environmental key, and 50,000 from REN, and we had the largest play park in North Lanarkshire. We have the lease on the land. We have also Queen's Jubilee status on the land, which means that the council cannot do anything to the land, and we still have one of the largest play parks in North Lanarkshire, basically. Owned by the community, taken care of by the community, and we do not have a lot of vandalism in it, so it's a great resource for the community. Oh God, I don't know what I've done there, Neil.
We do nothing without consulting with our community, because what's the point of putting stuff in if folk don't want it, don't need it, don't. Not going to use it.
Right, we've only got 2 minutes left, but this is the most important and biggest achievement to date, basically. We've just secured 2.100, we'll say, £1 million for our capital project to refurbish our community centre, which was basically a hall, a sports hall. We turned one of the meeting rooms into the post office. We turned a gents' changing room into a small office. We turned a ladies' changing room into our office, and that was the community centre. We are now developing a multi-purpose, flexible, inclusive centre that will meet the needs of our whole community. And we're in the middle of that refurbishment just now. It's the biggest major capital project, community capital project that's ever taken place within our community. And it's a great achievement for us, a big challenge, a great achievement, and one that we will overcome. Probably we can get questions on that. Is that us up, Neil? We started it in May. It's anticipated to finish in March, but it will be finished in February because they're ahead of time. They're well on target for that. And that's us just now. I'm sure we'll get plenty of questions, or we're willing to answer plenty of questions, and we'll tell you about our next appeal that we're doing for our centre. Hope you all enjoyed that. Thank you.
So, for those of you who Scottish is not your first language,
You told me to speak slow.
you really do.
That's a slow down.
That is slow. That is slow. Believe it or not, that is slow. So you've heard lots and lots of
Neil,
things.
give me a minute.
You've heard lots and lots of things about the organisation. And when you hear organisational stories, which I'm sure many of you have, and as academics we hear many, invariably people do tell you the good news stories. And sometimes think, yeah. But actually, being with the Two Teresas, seeing the organisation, watching the organisation, and talking to people at the organisation, you very quickly realise about how special the organisation is. And what we try to do is work out some of the reasons why, apart from the Two Teresas. That's only part of the story. You mentioned the history, and the history is quite important. One thing you didn't mention, so you mentioned the community spirit, mines, working class labour, trade unions, church, etc. And then it all went away, but other things happened.
Yeah.
Can you just quickly describe that horrible interim bit? So basically, what you had to overcome.
Well, in the 80s, Glenboig went into a decline, and it had a lot of bad press. You probably still find it in Google, which is not something we like to talk about, but we always do talk about it, because if we hadn't have been in that place, we wouldn't have got to where we are now, basically. So we, for alcohol, drugs, lack of employment, the morale of the community was completely gone, basically. There was nothing in our community. We had, I think we had one youth club within the community centre where we had about 50 children on a Sunday night. We had a pigeon club, the old famous pigeon clubs that some of you might know about and some of you not. We had
Racing pigeons.
a pipe band, and we had an old age pensioners lunch club. But what we did have was we had a lot of travellers within the community living in caravans. So we had, a lot of welfare, the social work dealing with a lot of people's problems at that time within the community. And then
The
high school.
One of the things that the council, God bless them, realised was that the problems weren't going away, really. And they decided to get people together in the village, this is way back, and give some training. And there was what was called a rural grant of £11,000. £11,000, if you're working in the community, you'll know is nothing. It's a drop in the ocean. But anyhow, they got some of us together. Teresa had been involved in other things, and so had I. I'd run a club for special needs kids as well as the work I did. Teresa had been involved with Marie Curie and half a dozen other things. And there was other people, including my husband and 2 or 3 others. And the police got us together to see if we would take some kind of training to see if they could tackle the problems that were indigenous to the village. And that basically was the spark that started it, because we knew what the problems were, but this was the first time that people were actually acknowledging it publicly and saying they would put a wee bit of money after it. And as I say, £11,000. But it was enough to give us all a bit of special training. And we had enough skills within the wee group that was left behind. There was 3 or 4 of us who stood the test of time. And it was actually started up with Duke of Edinburgh groups, with the youth.
That was the first high school work that had really started in the community. There was nothing for high school children. But there's a good football club in Glenboig United, and that's been there forever, basically, you know, tackling the kind of some of the youth work through football. But there was nothing else in the community at that time. And we ended up, you know, we worked with about 30 kids. In the high school at that time, there were a group of kids that had left primary school, primary 7, and really stuck together. You know, there was about 20 of them, wasn't there, that really stuck together, you know, within the community. And they were the first children or young people that came round the table and kind of say to you, they swung from the lights for months. You know,
literally,
they did, because they had never had any input.
Translation.
Do you know swung from the lights? It means they were a wee bit chaotic.
Yeah.
Right? So we got these guys together. Happily, I taught a couple of them. And once we managed to get them sitting down, that was the start of something good. And at that time, the community education were doing the Duke of Edinburgh Award, which some of you might be familiar with. There's 3 levels, bronze, silver, gold. So we thought, right, if we can keep these guys in the one room, we're going to do the bronze. So, unfortunately, between my husband and Teresa and myself, we'd enough experience. We knew a bit about the country. We'd travelled all through the country. Henry was a terrific organiser, and we ramblers. So once we told these kids we were going to take them out into the country, it was sold. But we'd still to do the legwork for orienteering and all the other camping skills and cooking skills and all the rest of it.
So we've got the setup.
Yep, that was way back at the beginning.
Way back.
But the thing is, Neil, once we started, we realised how little
there
we
was.
were doing and how little there was. And it was from there on.
Tell it shut up.
Yeah.
Just tell me to shut up.
Motivation.
Motivation.
What was your motivation? You know, why did you stand up? Why did you stand up and take initiative?
I think it was a realisation, really.
The realisation as well, but I had a young family at that time. Your family as well were just a wee bit older, but I had a young family at that time, and my partner used to say to me, we're moving out here, and I used to say, well, where are we going to go? I've been brought up here, I live in a village. I knew I could let my children out to play in the village and they would be safe. You know, that's always been something that we're really proud of, and we're still really proud of that. So that was the motivation for me at first, basically. And I think once we got these young people not round the table, into the room, it was really special, because there were some young people in there that were really disadvantaged, that were going through some real issues, you know, that were starting to tap into alcohol and start, you know, going down the road, and maybe, you know, they're going to end up in this drug culture. Our drug culture in Glenboig, the people that were involved in drugs in Glenboig are now in their 60s, and we've probably now got, and a lot of them have died over the years, and it's been the same group of young people, and they're in their 60s, and there's still that small element that are still involved in that drugs culture. But I'm not saying that there are no young ones in Glenboig that aren't, you know, going down the wrong road. You know, not everybody's perfect. We'll never reach the whole community. But the work that we started is still carrying on. And those young people that we had in those rooms are now the young people that have got the families that are bringing their kids through to the toddlers and through to the youth group, you know, and it's carried on through the kind of intergenerational theme, right through the work that we're doing.
And they'll actually say to us, oh, it was coming to what you were doing in the village, you know, that gave us something else to do. It gave us another avenue to go down. They didn't realise it at the time, which children don't. Teenagers are teenagers. But as they got older and matured and started to think about starting families of their own, it was a realisation. And something else it did, it gave them, when it came time for them becoming employed, they'd done so much work with us that we could give them proper references to go looking for jobs, and that was a kick-off for a lot of people. They actually had something to show folk.
So, I mean, you said it yourself, from cradle to grave. The amount of services the organisation runs with 20 staff is quite amazing. But that's not the main thing for me. One thing that struck me forcibly when I heard people talking is that all your team and yourselves, you always go the extra mile with people. So, for those you don't know, I'm sure you have it in different countries, Meals on Wheels. So if you're elderly or disabled, you may get Meals on Wheels. Normally what happens, this happens to my parents, someone comes along, they shove the meal at you, and off they hop. You know? Your team, they stay, they chat, they check.
Yeah. You make the tea.
Make the tea. Look at the garden, look at this, look at the other, encourage people. I mean, that is going a long way further.
And they identify for us too who needs that extra bit of help, which is very important because you can't always get inside people's domicile situation, as you know.
That's where the motivation comes from. For me, that's where the motivation comes from. I think that we have to care for the people in our community the way we would care for our own families.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Care for them the way I would care for my own mother. When my mother comes to the group, she's a member of the group, she gets treated the same as every other person because we care for them all the same.
Do you, I mean, so you,
She does.
you get a contract to deliver the Meals on Wheels service?
No, we do it autonomously.
We get some funding to support the older people's project.
Okay.
And we use it for one of the workers, one or two development workers, to go out and do that as part of the
So that's one
project.
thing. The other thing, and you were talking about this, is how you nurture people, young people, whatever, to be part of the organisation and later give jobs to people in the organisation.
Yeah.
So those two things I think are really important about your organisation. Would you agree?
Well, I would agree that sits at the heart of our organisation. Yeah.
If we can employ somebody locally, we'll do that.
And that's where the passion comes from and the
So in
commitment.
your travels across Scotland to many other organisations similar to you, do you see the same thing? Is it something in the nature of the organisation or the people who are attracted to that organisation? So where does that spirit come from? The spirit to...
The spirit comes from us in our community. We see a lot of organisations all over Scotland not delivering the same as what we deliver, maybe delivering parts of it. We go to areas that maybe are 1.5 miles or 3 miles away from us and everybody will say, Glenboig's got everything, we've got nothing. Well, if you're waiting on the council, North Lanarkshire Council, or you're waiting in the NHS, you're never going to have everything because we're not funded by well, we've got some funding for the government, some from the council, lotteries, trusts, funding coming in from everywhere basically. But a lot of places don't care the way we care. You know, they haven't got the passion. They're delivering the service, but they haven't got the same passion. I went to an event that was run for older people, and it was a council officer that was running it, and there wasn't a lot of people there. We'd taken people on a minibus, and we says, well, you know, the reason there's nobody here is because there's no transport provided. He says, well, they've all got bus passes. We says, but some of them can't get to the end of the street to get on the bus. You know, if you provide transport and you help them to get here, they're still independent, and your event will be successful. And that's where we're successful.
So, and another element which you talked about was this, you called it consulting with the community, but it's all the time.
Oh, aye.
It doesn't stop. Lots of organisations will go out and say, what would you like? And then they'll wander off and come back.
Do what they want.
You're doing it all the time.
Yeah.
That's vital to what we do. When we were doing the parches, is what we consulted the community. The senior care project, we consult. Everything we do includes the community. And even if we're not doing a consultation, if somebody thinks they've got an idea or a problem, they'll actually come to us and say, what about such and such? Because we've put that kind of attitude, if you like, out there.
But we evaluate as well.
Oh, aye.
You know, so at the end of the youth sessions and the end, if we take the older people, we're just back from a 5-day holiday with the older people. When we bring them back, we evaluate that. We consult with them again. You know, was it what you expected? Should we be doing any more? You know, were there things that
could
you
we do
didn't
better?
get that you would have liked to have done on that trip? So we're kind of evaluating and consulting as we're going along.
So an organisation like yours has to work with lots of different people,
Yeah.
different organisations. How do you build relationships? We call social entrepreneurship. How do you build those relationships?
Well, we're involved in a lot of partnerships. Basically, with the host organisation for Coatbridge, it was reshaping care for older people to start with a few years ago. It's now health and social care integration. So as part of that, we are sitting at strategic level, at the top of the table, with the NHS and social work. We've now been recognised by social work, and it's taken us a lot of years to get that recognition. So there's local development programmes, and there's steering groups for that. So there's like frailty and elderly, and there's children and families, and there's one for abuse and another one. I just can't put my finger on that one just now. So we're sitting around those tables with all those other partners. We have the local area partnership meetings that are held. Used to be once a month, now it's every 3 months if you're really lucky. And round that table you have all your local elected members, and you have the fire service, and you have the police, and you have other organisations. And then you've got the community forum for our area, and that's community groups. That's all community groups that come together for that forum that drive
Do people listen
things
to you?
forward. People listen to us,
Yeah.
because if they don't, well, I had a meeting with the Assistant Chief Executive the other day,
I know.
because if they don't listen, I'll just keep going up
We
the
just
tree.
keep pressing.
I'll rephrase the question, because of course people listen to you, because of who you are. But often for small groups, you know, to get access to power and influence is quite hard.
Yeah, very.
And then for people to listen to you and take you seriously is even harder.
Yes.
How do you encourage people to take you seriously?
I think
I think our reputation.
a reputation kind of goes before
Goes
us
a
now,
long
Neil.
way.
But also, from way back in the beginning, something we decided years ago was if somebody said no to us, A, we would say why not, and B, we would go, no, we're not accepting that. Not making a fuss, but we'll need to attack it another way. So we would look at what we wanted and think, how can we get the money for this? Who can we hit for this? As Teresa says, we had a meeting with one of the top execs in the council the other day, who told us categorically, I can't give you money for that, but I'm going to see if I can help in another way. And he was quite honest and straightforward about it.
We're always professional, I've got to say
Of
that.
course, you know, you don't need to bully people.
We'll go the right way, and if the right way doesn't work, we'll go that way.
Above their heads, you know. We're also quite fortunate in a lot of our board, including ourselves, have had a lot of experience in dealing publicly with people. So you know the kind of parameters you're working within. But we have a lot of folk who visit, who want to learn more. Now, the most surprising one, you mentioned it earlier, Teresa, was a party from Sweden. Now, we all think of Sweden as being up there as far as social enterprise and social awareness and all the rest of it. And it's true. I mean, their taxes are fantastic. And one of my daughters has actually got a sister-in-law over there, and what they do for their communities is amazing. But this party that came wanted to know how the middle bit operated, because there's parts of Sweden where there's things coming down from the top, and they're putting lots of money into it, and it's still not working, because they're working the wrong way around. They're working from the top down, where you should really work from the bottom up. And they were fascinating to listen to, but they went away and they said that they'd learned stuff, so we must have done something okay as far as they were concerned. And yet I'd always thought up until then that Sweden was a paragon
Streets
of
ahead,
virtue,
streets ahead.
you know? But obviously,
So that's great. That's the next question was about, you know, what advice you would give to organisations or people who are trying to set up organisations at a grassroots level, you know, like you. What advice would you give to those people?
I'm trying to give an organisation this advice just now. There's an organisation 3 miles away from us that could be working the same way we're working, but they're waiting on funding coming from the health board or the council bringing workers in to deliver it for them. Find something, and we've got a 5-year action plan now, so we can work to that 5-year action plan. Find something small that is really needed in your community. But you need people. You can't just go in and say, right, I'm going to start this lunch club, basically. We've got the people, but we never had the centre. This is us just going to get the centre, so we've got the people. Start small. We started very small. We started with the youth work. We then identified there was no social place for MD to meet. We opened a small cafe a couple of days a week. We then looked to older people who weren't coming together, and we started a small history group. So start very small. Find something that's going to build the momentum of your community, that your community are going to trust you for, and then build from there. Because we never, ever, ever thought that we would reach the scale of the size that we're at now.
Well, as you've probably gathered by now, development trusts, CDCs in America are one of my favourite organisational forms, not without flaws. I used to manage one for 13 years. But I think it's important about development trusts is they have a shared philosophy, but also they have a support organisation. In Scotland, you've already mentioned it, DTA
Development
Scotland.
Trust, definitely.
It's a great organisation.
So people can learn from each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do a lot of, host visits, go out and learn and, get your experience and your knowledge and your skills and share your knowledge and skills with other people, and they've got a kind of grant for groups going out and learning off people. So when we were looking at our community centre and developing our community centre, we went out and found out how other organisation had done it before us, and vice versa. We got organisations coming to us, and it's the same for any anchor organisation taking on land. All the parameters and all the legalities. We don't all know everything. Although I know more about technical assistance and ground than I'll ever know. Groundworks than I'll ever know in my life. But we don't all know everything, so sharing experiences is really the way forward for us in Scotland. Working with our partners, not working in isolation, that we have to share our knowledge, and that's how we grow and move on.
Another thing, you really need a good, sound board of people. Doesn't need to be dozens and dozens. A good small group that have skills and understanding, patience and determination. Because you can't allow folk to tell you can't do that. You need to be consistent and you need to be determined and find a way around all the little wrinkles and difficulties.
So Michelle and I visited the DTA conference, not this year, the year before, and I learned two things. One, I learned, and forcibly so, told off, that you do not put ice in whiskey. Just a drop of water.
That's a sin.
That was a bit of... the second thing, one interesting thing is, and this is a bit of a worry, is we were talking about problems, weren't we? If you remember, Michelle was drawing, and we were asking all the audience as they came through about the problems the movement faced. So you get the usual stuff, money, people, time, etc. But as we talked, we realised there's another problem, which was the organisations were ageing. As in the board members and the teams were getting older, and there weren't enough young people coming through who knew how to organise. You're of a generation who knew how to organise for various ways. So a lot of young people don't.
Yeah.
I know you're doing this work yourself, but that is an issue that I think many organisations face, is this gap, this skills gap, this knowledge gap of how to get things done. Mm-hmm. For you, you're doing it through your training young people from this age.
Yeah, through from this age, and what we've did with all the different elements within our organisation, and that's been a hard lesson, for us, is each part of the organisation is a strand in itself, and there's somebody at the head. There's somebody that leads that team, basically. And on our board as well, we've tried to bring in younger people. So we've got somebody that represents youth, we've got somebody from the new developments, and bringing in the other developments and bringing in that young blood, because it is hard. A lot of voluntary organisations, boards are made up of older people, and they can't bring younger people through the doors, and sometimes that's why they fail.
So many of the themes we've been talking about this week about social entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship, I think it's embodied in an organisation like this. In fact, actually, so when Paul and I wrote the initial paper, it was all separate. After visiting the Two Teresas, the essay, The Long View of Community Innovation, incorporated a different view because I saw it happening in this organisation. So I'm now going to open up to questions from the audience. Yes?
Thank you so much. It was very inspiring.
Could you just speak a little
Okay.
bit, because that damn fan's going.
Okay. So my question really is on the community, because you also mentioned about expansion. Community is expanding in terms of population. And I was just wondering, in terms of having this really close tie within the community and building the trust, do you think there is a limit in terms of the population of how many you can do? Or, because it's different, I think it's difficult. So I was just wondering if you think there's like a population limit to have that such strong bonding, and if so, how do you expand if the village really expands to like?
I think we've kept our autonomy in our village feel, even with 350 houses and the other 175 that are getting built just now. If we don't regenerate, we'll stagnate, basically, within our community. And I think the fact that we're building a centre now, you know, a state-of-the-art facility. We've never had a facility to suit the needs of the community. People are coming to our community because of what's happening, what's going on in all the services, you know, and they tell us that, the developers tell us it, you know, the people themselves tell us it. I don't think the community can get too big to be a community. Some of the houses that are actually getting built, there's 750 right across from the community centre, are going to be quite far away from our actual, you know, the centre of our community. And we don't know if they're going to be a community in themselves, but we're going on the other private houses that have been built within the community, and that people are really keen to be involved within the community. And I can't really answer that question fully. I'll come back in 5 years and answer it. I can't really answer that question fully just now, but what we think is, while we regenerate, we need that economy for our village, you know, and for us to thrive, and also to have the sustainability to continue with the services and expand the services that we're delivering.
Okay.
Did I answer you? Have you? Is that
One,
okay?
A wee bit.
2, 3, 4.
I'm interested in the Seven Lock project. So my parents actually live in Frackfield, just down from Hoggy.
That's one of the
That's
logs.
one of the logs. Yeah, that's it.
What do you think, just because I've seen that project developing, and I've seen, although it's obviously just in its early stages, when my father and I goes out to walk his dog, he's there for hours because he's meeting folk from
Yeah.
the neighbouring that probably wouldn't have happened before. And I just wondered what you think the impact's going to be, that particular project on Glenboig.
I think it's going to have a positive impact on us. It's written into the papers and some of the funding applications that the Seven Lochs would expect 8,000 visitors a year coming round that, you know, that network. And the reason that we are building this new centre is that we want to become sustainable. We don't want to be continuing to get grants, and we see the sustainability of our organisation and of this centre coming through the Seven Lochs. We're going to have a bigger cafe where people can come. We've also got a cycle hub where we receive funding. There's another building out the back, and all our youth are trained in mechanics, trained in fixing bikes. People hopefully come along that network, stop, have a coffee if they need their bike fixed. You know, so we see that bringing a lot of sustainability for us. Also our hall, we're going to have events, weddings, christenings, you know, anything that we can possibly have. We provide all our own catering and everything, so we see the Seven Lochs playing a big part in the sustainability of our organisation.
There's a walk in Scotland called the West Highland Way. Some of you may have walked it. I don't know. It's 100 miles walk. Now, the Seven Lochs, it'll start with people hiring bikes, etc., but eventually what they're envisaging is people will start to walk that route, and more people will come, not just from Britain, but even from abroad, which happens with the long walks in this country now. So we're going to become part of a network of long walks or cycles, and that's got to keep revitalising all those local communities along that route.
Another thing that they're looking, just before I finish on the Lochs, sorry. There's going to be a lot of history and heritage work done, you know, as part of those projects as well, basically. So, you know, keeping the heritage and the history alive. You know, in Glenboig, we've got a lot of heritage and history. You know, so keeping it alive for the Seven Lochs, you know, is going to have a positive impact as well on that whole network. You must come and visit us.
You need to visit.
So I think it's David next.
We appreciate your passion and excitement. My question is, what impact has your work done on the local political leaders? Did they give you a buy-in? Did they resist? Were you a catalyst to inspire them to do something? I'm just curious.
One of the local councillors was born and brought up in the village, and he has been endlessly helpful.
Instrumental.
He's been amazing. The other councillors, regardless of political aspirations for them, you know, when it comes to election time, they'll come into the centre and they'll go, oh, I'll do this and I'll do that. Now, we have learned that there's some of them we can trust, and there's some of them, quite frankly, are a waste of time. So the ones that are a waste of time, we don't listen very carefully to them. The ones that we think we can trust, we'll tell them what we want, we'll bring them along with us. But you have to be careful, because you don't want to prejudice people either. That's not what we're there for.
No, but we use the ones that are going to help
The
us.
ones that are going to help us,
In short, that's
we
what we do.
include them, and they know that they're included. The ones that we don't do anything for us.
Where was I? Yes, Jennifer.
Can you tell us more about the jobs and employment situation over the years? Because obviously when the mines closed, then an industry collapsed. So how did jobs come back? Because it seems the economy is doing well, more people are moving.
We're the biggest employer in Glenboig in our village at the present time. Everybody else has to travel for work.
Okay.
So they would travel to Coatbridge, which is your nearest town, or Glasgow, which is 10 miles, Cumbernauld. You know, so employment in our village is very small, so everybody travels. But we have got a low employment rate within Glenboig.
Okay, that's amazing. So they work outside.
Yeah, they work outside the village. Yeah.
And we do have we've got a local station at Gatcosh, which you can reach by foot. You can reach on foot, or if you can cycle. So many people here cycle, wouldn't think twice about it. Or you can park your car, and that gets you right into the heart of Glasgow. Coatbridge, which is our nearest town. You can get a train there for Edinburgh. That's where we started our journey yesterday. You can get a train from Coatbridge through to Edinburgh 4 times an hour. So people are more diverse now. They do go further for employment, you know.
So I have 2 questions. First one, very short one. Can we come and visit you?
Anytime, you're more than
Anytime
welcome.
at all.
Wait till our centre's open, wait till April.
You're very
Because
well.
we're working out of porta cabins just now, and every 5 minutes there's a power cut.
And the weather's better in April.
Yeah.
Very
More than
welcome.
welcome. We would welcome anybody to visit us.
And the second one, what you did was so pretty phenomenal. Like, how does it make you feel? Are you proud?
I'm proud. I'm proud to live in Glenboig. You know, I've always been proud to live in Glenboig. I don't think I could move anywhere else in Glenboig. But we help a lot of people in the community doing a lot of other things, like giving furniture, giving food, toys, so loads of other things, you know, under the radar. And we helped a family just now. We were speaking about this. I just like to see people happy, and that makes me happy. And if we can do a small thing to make somebody's life better, then that's got to make you proud. But if it helps somebody, then, you know, we've got a far better community, and that makes me really proud.
But the pride doesn't come in the public obvious thing. The pride is an internal thing, knowing that you've done something and it's helped somebody a wee bit along the way, or a big bit along the way. That's for the kick, if you like. And once you start on that, it's difficult to stop, because you just want to keep on making it better. No?
Definitely, forgive me, I have 2 questions, hopefully they're not too long. The first one is, you mentioned a few times the community consultations, so I just would love to hear just a little bit more about what those actually look like. And then the second question would be a bit broader, but if you could, it's very cliche, but if you could give yourself some advice 20, 30 years ago, you know, some of the learnings that you had, what would that be?
Probably run away. You want to answer the consultation one?
The consultation, the way we started way back at the beginning was, if we wanted to, or when we wanted to consult, we literally put leaflets through every single door.
We still
in the
do that.
village. And we'd also get them put into the children's school bags, into their satchels. We would give them out at our events. We would do everything to make sure every single corner of the community was consulted. And we'd go back and pick them up It wasn't a case of, oh, you'll need to post that in. We would actually collect them all so that we knew everybody was being hit and nobody could turn around and say, oh, you only did that bit of the village, or you only, we did everybody.
And for our 5-year action plan, which we did, that was 2 years ago, we put a consultation, we put a questionnaire through everybody's door, and then we chapped everybody's door to get it back again.
Say that word again.
Chapped.
No.
We like to find a captured audience as well. So we've got a lot of groups. We've got our older people's group, our younger people's group. We've got a jelly bean club that happens after school where we pick the kids up. They come in, they have a snack, they do their homework, they get music lessons, they play games, and we would capture the parents then. You know, so if there's a captured audience as well, we'll go to that captured audience.
If we were going
The
back,
advice?
Remove those barriers
Yeah.
to getting that information.
Yeah.
The second one was just what we do.
what
What
would we do?
advice? I think, you know, when we started out, if we seen a gap, there was a project going to happen, and we did a lot of volunteering. So before we had our minibuses, we'd have been running out at lunchtime in our cars and picking
We did
older
it.
people up.
We did that.
And you know, we'd done, you could say we were doing about 70 hours a week because we were doing massive amount of volunteering. And within our organisation, that's one thing that all the staff do. If there's a community event, we all work. We lift the sweeping brush, we move the marquees, we're all multi-skilled and we all work together. It doesn't matter what level you are in our organisation, we all work together. And I think a bit of advice, and we did get this bit of advice, was bring the funding in, identify the project and then bring the funding in. And over the years, that's what we started to do. So, you know,
works better.
because we were running about like headless chickens, basically just making sure everything was happening in our community. So that's the advice I would give myself now.
So you can hear the leadership style we were talking about yesterday, distributed leadership. You know, this is what this is, I think. Okay, yes. And then Winnie.
Thank you very much for what you're doing. I work on a project that's very similar to yours, but it's at the very beginning, so in back then, so I really like to check you more after this. But just a question that I come across a lot is, how do you deal with resistance that comes from your community, from the people that you're trying to help when you are coming up with new projects? How do you work with that? How do you manage to make sure that everyone is happy?
You'll never make everybody happy in your community.
You can try. You can try.
You know,
I think what we do, if we identify a problem with a particular person or particular people, we get our heads together. We don't go out buckshy and say, oh, we'll sort that. We get our heads together and
Translate.
we don't go out.
we have a discussion.
We have a discussion first. We don't just run on to the gain. Sorry. We get our heads together, we talk about it, we see first of all if there's a way that we can bring the person or the people in to us and see if we can have a discussion. If that doesn't work, we'll maybe consult with, we've consulted with the DTA before for difficult things, we'll maybe consult with somebody else, we'll maybe consult with somebody that's a more distant member of the family, because sometimes what you're getting from that person isn't anything against you, it's something that's happening within that family circle, and it can be identified quite quickly and worked on. So it's a case of being patient and digging a wee bit deeper.
But I think you'll never reach 100% of the community. It doesn't matter what you do in your community, it doesn't matter how many in-ways you've got for publicity. If you do it social media, putting posters up, putting it in the school bags, putting a letter through every door, putting it up in our buses, putting it in all the local shops, churches, everywhere, that's, you know, every angle. You'll always get somebody that says, I didn't know they were there and I didn't know that they were doing that. You know, so that's the way it is, basically. I would say you'll never reach your whole community unless they need you. When they need you, yeah.
That's quite important, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's really, you know, yeah.
Yes, you have 175 new houses coming, Regeneration. Is this a private developer? Is this part of affordable housing, or what is the...
Well, this is private housing just now, and out of 1,040 houses in our community, we are getting 30 affordable houses. And we've been fighting with developers for 10 years within our community. and we're getting 30 affordable houses, and that is down to the local elected members, you know, and what's happening in government. And what we're getting told at the local area partnership by the local councillors is that if they try to overturn what the developers are trying to do, and then it goes to the government, then the reporter actually overturns what the council wants. So it comes back and the developers actually get their own way in the end. What's happening just now, just about a mile and a half away from us, there must be about 1,700 houses, new houses built. So you've got all this lovely brand new development of private houses, detached houses, and sitting here at the end of it, there's a row of terraced houses, and that's the affordable houses. So they're really stigmatising people with these affordable houses, you know. So when you're going along the road, you know they're the social houses, you know, and the developers, you know, have got all the other private houses. But we're only getting 30. We're fighting that just now, but I don't think it'll change.
It's difficult.
It's a bad situation.
Yes, thank you. I work with a development trust in Belfast, so I really appreciate the activities you're undertaking, and it parallels with a lot of things we do as well. The impact you have on individuals' lives really is significant. When you hear the statistics, it's hard to see that. I had questions, but everybody seems to ask before I got there. But just on the development of the 2,000 houses, what threats do you see from that, and how do you anticipate addressing those? Do you see any threats at all?
No, it's not something that we've discussed at all, basically. There may be threats, we don't know. It might be 5 years before the houses are built. You know, they've been in the local plan now for about 15 years. The company that are going to be building them have been in touch with us and asked us if we'll do the catering for them when they come on site and all different sorts of things. But they then disappear for years and you don't see them again. But that's something that we've never spoke about. And I think the threat is, you know, that somebody mentioned, you know, earlier, you know, are we going to be able to cope with, you know, with the numbers? We don't see a problem with that ourselves, you know, coping with the numbers of people that are going to come through our community.
The university's been developed beside where our core areas, and it's a, you know, associated private area. But one of the threats we foresee is that it could turn into a student village. You know?
Yeah.
I know we do see those in cities.
You know what students are like.
I know. That's happened on this. So that's one of the threats we've seen. We're trying to address that. Sorry, to go on a positive note, maybe I missed it. When you were setting up the development trust, how did you do it? How did you seed it? How did you find that?
We never started off as a development trust. We started off as a volunteer organisation with charitable status, and within that we've had other companies that have been developed, like a company to deliver the play park. You know, just now I'm managing about five companies within the organisation, and what we're in the process of doing is dissolving different companies to bring them under the umbrella of the development, not under the umbrella. We'll have the development trust, and then we will have a subsidiary, which will be Glenboig Life, and they'll drive the post office and the shop forward, that side. So we just emerged naturally into a development trust. You know, we've been part of the development trust movement, I think, since 2 years after it came into inauguration. So we've been there for all those years, but we didn't fund it. It just came natural into what we were doing, and we developed that way just into a development trust, and then we changed our name into Glenboig Development Trust.
We've just been very patient, Neil.
Sorry, Vanessa, this is the last question.
Right, I need to show them the leaflet.
Eh?
How did you manage to secure the funding?
The funding. Now, that's a lot of funding, as you appreciate. There's a Scottish fund called the Regeneration Capital Grant Fund, RCGF it's called. And this is a fund that normally goes to councils. But we get a wrinkle a good wee while ago.
Do you want me to explain? What happens with the Regeneration Capital Grant Fund is that the council lead on the applications. So the council decide how many projects are going forward to the government every year, basically. And we've been trying to feed our way into this fund for years, and they wouldn't recognise us. But we've got some friends in the government And we had one of the government ministers out visiting us a couple of years ago, and I went to an event. I have to give you this wee explanation because this is how we got the funding. I went to an event for the Coalfield Regeneration Fund, which is an organisation that works in the ex-mining villages, developing ex-mining villages. And the government minister asked me, how are you getting on in your centre? I says, well, we're doing good. We've put our first application into the Regeneration Capital Grant Fund, but the council are telling us that they've prioritised us number 3, which meant they didn't really want us to get funded. So he says to his assistant, go and bring David Cowan over here. And David Cowan had been out with Nicola Sturgeon, our Scottish representative, to visit us, and she launched an energy programme from our centre. And when David Cowan came over, long story short, he asked about how the centre was going, and I said to him about the application and how we were prioritised 3. And he said, well, the council will have to sit on the fence for this one, because unless you've got a very poor application in, he says, I don't see it going the council way. And these applications are sitting on my table just now in the House Teresa. So I knew then I was going to get that £1 million. I couldn't tell anybody, but I knew I was getting it. We then get £800,000 off the big lottery, and they gave us an uplift of another £38,000 when we got the tenders in. We went back with the contract, and we have £175,000 off the Robertson Trust, one of the trusts, £175,000. And how we're going to bring the rest of the money is, I'll just go into this just now.
You need to take your plugs out, please. This is going to be something.
We are famous for bricks in Glenboig, and to keep heritage and history alive, we are now going out to our community, and we're going out worldwide because we've got Friends of Glenboig that's absolutely worldwide on Facebook, and we are seeking and we're looking for people to buy a brick, a family brick, a company brick, and any brick to keep their heritage alive. And also, if there's people out there that want to give a donation, then if people want to give a donation to us, and that's how we're going to bring in, hopefully, a lot of the rest of the money for our project. We will get the money in, and we will achieve our objective, because I can't retire until I do, and we've been doing this for 10 years. So, thank you.
We will put the web link on the Learn material. I have an old brick in my office from Glenboig.
A real one?
A real one, which I'm very proud of. I'm sorry?
Can I share something very quickly?
Is it relevant?
Yes.
Yes, quickly.
So if you're a charity, Google, you have to register for it on Google, but they'll give you $10,000 worth of free Google ads per month.
Really?
If you're a charity.
Right, I'll speak to Claire about that on Monday. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay.
Before we
finished.
start, sorry, I thought you had.
No. On you go. No, I've got nothing to say. I'm saying we are finished. He's told us we're finished.
I've lost control here.
She's a retired school teacher. You've got to forgive her.
Before we shut down, who was asked, would you be able to come and visit? The answer to that for you all is yes. Whenever you want to come, get in touch with us. We're always happy to see visitors. Glenboig is a welcoming place. You'll be treated well, and we'll even give you your lunch or your dinner.
And thanks for listening. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Being patient, especially with me.
Teresa, thank you both for coming out. We're so appreciative
You're very well.
You made it all the way out here. I live in what used to be a mining community, and in the 50s and 60s it fell apart and almost everyone left the town. There are a few people that stuck around, and they were innovators like you, and because of the hard work that they did, it's now a thriving community.
Good.
People from all over the world come to visit, and so future generations will thank you for what you're doing. You said that not a lot of people care, that you care, and that's why you're doing what you're doing. And we all came to this program so we can learn to care like you. And so thank you for coming out and inspiring us.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you. That's lovely. Thanks very much.